India today successfully test-fired the Agni-5. It's indigenously developed. It's an intercontinental surface-to-surface nuclear-capable ballistic missile. This missile was tested off the Odisha coast. DRDO sources have told India today range coordination reached its final stage for the fourth test of the Agni-5 missile. This is a three-stage solid propellant missile. This was test fired from a mobile launcher. This is the fourth development trial missile. It's 5,000 kilometer range, capable of targeting perhaps almost all of China. The indigenously developed surface-to-surface missile Agni-5 is capable of targeting any location up to 5,000 kilometers, but there are some strategic analysts who say that this can go way beyond 5,000 kilometers. The missile can carry a nuclear warhead of more than 1 ton. Unlike other missiles of the Agni series, the Agni-5 is the most advanced in terms of technology, in terms of its navigation and guidance. After a couple of more trials, Agni-5 will be inducted into India's arsenal. This is a strategic deterrent. This move will restore India's missile balance, which had tipped in China's favor in recent years. I have Commodore Uday Bhaskar, who joins me on the broadcast. Also with me is editor Shiv Arur. Commodore Bhaskar, you're one of the foremost voices on India's nuclear security, on India's security. How significant is the Agni-5 missile test? And especially when some claim the range is 5,000 is what India says it is much more.
Gaurav, if I could use one word, I would say very, meaning that this is a very significant development in terms of enhancing India's strategic profile. Because those of us who've been studying and tracking the Indian Guided Missile Development Program, it goes back to 1983, which is a long time. And India had, at the blueprint stage, envisaged something like the Agni-5 more than 30 years ago as a blueprint. And for me as an analyst, I would say that it's a matter of great satisfaction to note that this has been a successful launch, and whatever be the parameters that the DRDO had set for itself, evidently they have all been realized. And as you noted in your comments earlier, some of the guidance technologies that have been used are really at cutting edge, on par with what is currently available at the global level.
Okay.
And I think for India, this should be seen as a very significant development in terms of the strategic profile. But let me hasten to add that we have to go through some more stages before the missile is operationally inducted. So to that extent, I would introduce this note of caution to say that while we welcome, commend, applaud our scientific team for having made this possible, we still have a few more steps to complete.
Oh, absolutely. Commodore Bhaskar, stay with me for a moment. Let me quickly bring in my colleague Shiv Arur for more on this. Shiv, there is jubilation, there is celebration, because it's the range. This puts us in a different league, a country with its own intercontinental ballistic missile, all of China in our range. And there are some Chinese analysts who say that India claims it's 5,000 kilometers, but the range is actually up to 8,000 kilometers, Shiv.
Well, it's a very, very important test for India. This happens to be the fourth test of the Agni-5, which is India's longest range nuclear delivery platform, the Agni-5. And it basically means that with today's successful test from the eastern seaboard, the Agni-5 is ready to be inducted into operational service with India's strategic forces, or its nuclear command. Now, the Agni-5 has been tested 3 times before this. It was tested, our sources tell us, at a range in excess of 5,000 kilometers in the Indian Indian Ocean, and it was a successful test, which means it was able to, arrive at the area demarcated for that target endgame. The Agni-5 is by far India's most capable nuclear deterrent missile. It's a surface-to-surface ballistic missile. It's launched from a canister and can deliver a 1 to 1.5 ton nuclear payload to ranges in excess of 5,000 kilometers. So the importance and the significance of the Agni-5 now being ready for operational service means that it is all of China, most parts of northern China as well, are now within deterrent range. So it's an extremely, extremely important day for India's strategic deterrence.
How is the neighborhood looking at this is a very important aspect. Now, these are weapons of deterrence, and Commodore Bhaskar, that is where, this becomes extremely significant. India is making a statement when we say we have Agni-5. These are not weapons that are used, but the fact that we have this weapon means that the enemy will think, if not twice, at least once before they think of anything foolhardy. Commodore Bhaskar.
Gaurav, I think again I'd like to sort of tone this down a bit, because I do notice that repeatedly you are alluding to the China factor. Now, it is true empirically when we say that this is a missile of 5,000 kilometers plus, and you draw a map and draw a few arcs. Yes, 5,000 kilometers would definitely encompass China. But I think it also bears repetition that both India and China are committed to no first use and a certain degree of strategic restraint. And I think that's very important to remind ourselves in the public discourse. The concern really, I think, if you look at the Indian environment, is that to the extent that the India-China relationship is stable in a strategic sense,
Yes.
what Pakistan is doing is, in a way, eroding that stability. So I think for India, along with the fact that we have established the technological credibility, we also need to ensure that as far as the region is concerned, we are able to prioritize stability, because the next step, and I'm sure that this will come out in the days ahead, is that we will have a response from China. You may remember that in the 2012 test, the Chinese media was very disparaging
Yes.
about the Agni at that stage. But my sense is that after today's test, it would be monitored, studied very closely
Yes.
by our immediate neighbors who have a similar capability, that is China and Pakistan. And I think the direction we should be taking is, now clearly to me again as an analyst,
Okay.
both countries are going to be merging, the multiple warhead
Yes.
capability. MERV is the technical term. Now, both China and India in their own way would be going down that path. And China today is ahead of India as far as strategic capabilities are concerned.
And that is where India has some catching up to do. Commodore Bhaskar in Shivarur for the moment. Many thanks.